So let's say we do an engineering product sync up. We can figure out in today's AI world what tasks should engineering actually own would probably be the more complex ones. And a lot of the simpler ones, like let's say UI UX changes or simple APIs that need to be developed, um, could actually be owned completely by the product team.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Anyreach Roundtable, where we explore how AI is transforming the way we work. Today's series is Meet the Team, where we explore the experts at Anyreach that are building the transformative nature of agentic AI. I'm your host, Richard Lin, CEO of Anyreach, and today's guest is Mukunth, Head of Engineering here at Anyreach. Mukunth, it's great to have you here.
Hey, Richard. Yeah, nice to be here as well.
Awesome. So for our audience, can you maybe share a little bit about your background and experience so they can get to know you a little bit better?
Yeah. So my background is basically like graduated in 2019, but my degree was in mechanical engineering. But during college, like I was super interested in coding. So basically self-taught through a couple of Udemy courses, and I picked up a couple of projects while in college, and from there, like my coding journey began. Initially, right out of college, like I started with a freelancing job, and I built an application that uh, basically was being used for like 2 to 3 years for HR firm in Bangalore. And after that, during COVID, like I joined another voice AI company called Skip.ai. So I spent 3 years there, started as an IC, and then like exited as a team lead. And yeah, after that, I tried a couple of stints of my own again. And yeah, now here I am at Anyreach with Richard and Karthik. Yeah.
Got it, got it. Well, thanks for sharing your background and your journey. And it's pretty intriguing, kind of your experience in software development to Skit AI, one of the leading AI voice companies in India. And then obviously now leading engineering here at Anyreach. What initially sparked your passion for, jumping into AI, and how do you think that's shaped, your current expertise in the current role of being a head of engineering?
Yeah. I think so. Basically, before AI, right? If you had to build anything, like first you had to do a bit of research, you had to do a lot of Googling, and then you have to set solution. While solutioning, you have to do a lot of these things. Then once you come up with what you want to do, then you have to break it down so that you could assign it to different people, different engineers to get that task done. And then you would have to manually do code reviews and a lot of other things. And this entire process, if you follow best engineering practices, just takes a lot of time, right? And I think now with AI, a lot of this is like automated. So from the from the get-go, from like where you start the research phase. I mean, now I probably don't use Google much at all. I've hardly touched Stack Overflow.
Right.
So it's like you just use deep research, it gets you the answers that you want. And then from there, probably the only thing you have to do is solutionize because you have the business context, right? And you know what's best for your company at this stage. So you do that solutioning. And at this point, you don't have to break it down into many tasks. You probably just have to break it down into like 2 or 3 tasks. And most of it, you could probably just get Cursor or Codex to do now, right? Which means I think what this basically means is with a small lean team, everyone focuses on very important core tasks, and all the other boring stuff is something that AI is like very capable of doing right now. And
Right.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of seen a trend where, there's kind of two segments in the market around like programming. You have the kind of the vibe coders that have said, let's adopt AI. This is completely in our workflow. It's amazing, kind of like the non-tech users. And then in that same segment, you have like developers that, are very much in like AI native tooling that's like, hey, this can 10x to 100x, my
yeah,
output. But then on the flip side, you also have kind of a group of developers that are like extremely biased and skeptical of AI. And, excuse my French, but they shit on a lot of the AI native kind of workflows. As you kind of think about these two different segments, maybe we'll start with the skeptical, folks first. What do you think might be the reason why they're maybe a little bit slower to adopt or kind of have pushback on this recent trend?
Hmm. So I think like I would probably be one of those skeptics before, right? When GPT-3, GPT-4 came out. At that
Yeah.
point, it was like a cool tool. Like uh, it was definitely something magical, but when it came to practical application, like it wasn't there yet, right?
Mm,
Uh, so maybe that's what led to a lot of skepticism that people tried it out, but then they just stopped trying it out because they probably thought that that's where the state is still. And when people and I think there was a lot of hype. Every other company out there was trying to uh, show that something magical is happening and that a lot of software engineering jobs are going to go away. And in reality, that was not happening at all in our job, right? When it first came out, it didn't really change our workflows much. If we used AI to build a feature, it would probably just double our workload because now we have to go back and fix all the mistakes that it made. So it wasn't there yet. But I think people who are still skeptical should probably give it a try again because
mm.
I think in the past 2 years, like a lot of changes have happened and now it's actually usable. So now I think junior engineer level work, it's definitely able to do really, really well and can definitely automate a lot of tasks with it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a good point, when you think about the adoption curve of new technologies and cycles. There's always kind of like your early adopters, and then that matures up into like laggards and so forth.
Yeah.
And yeah, to your point, depending on where you are on that curve, if you come in too early where, the solutions aren't quite fleshed out yet,
Yeah.
you're probably gonna get some bias and be like, yeah, this thing sucks. um,
Exactly.
but I think the curious mind is what is really important, right? Because
Yeah.
if you have a level of curiosity, you wouldn't just call it quits on the first try. You'd be like, hey, let me check back in like 6 months and see what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, this new technology, especially with AI, is really rapidly improving, and it seems like every couple weeks there's a new model improvement that gives you another additional benefit.
Yeah.
Um, so, on the topic of benefits, on the flip side, for folks that are like, super bullish on, AI native tooling, especially in programming, what kind of gains and like output and benefits are you seeing, from your side as an IC, also coding, but also like managing a team?
Yeah. So I think now, when it comes to managing a team, what we have to focus on is building an environment that allows you to use AI safely, right? Because right now, if you just like if you don't set up your developer environments or even your production environments, the entire setup, if it's not right, then you might end up pushing a lot of AI generated code that could probably go break a lot of things, right? But now that AI is much better, it's still not going to be 100% of the time. So right now, I think you have to focus a lot on building those environments so that your engineers can safely iterate very fast using AI in these developer environments. And then I think, yeah, the mostly what we should be involved in is just reviewing code, right? So from what I have seen, like I extensively use Cursor and especially in Cursor, now that the context sizes are so large, like I use the max models. So, like if you architect a solution that requires you to look at the entire repository for context, I mean, you just use max and then you explain exactly what you want it to do, and it can be a very detailed instruction set, right? And most of the times I just type down those instructions, just set it, and then you just go do something else, right? And then by the time you're back, like it's probably written all that code and it's also like well commented code. So all I need to do is just review. And as I'm reviewing, you just chat with it a bit. It just gets done. So the time it took me before to put all of this into like a Jira ticket or a linear ticket, you just take that and you put it in Cursor and then it just does it, right? So, uh, and I think as time has gone on, the number of times I had to go back to the chat and change something has reduced a lot as well, right? So previously my chat might extend to like 5 or 6 messages, and at that point I would just call it quits and I would do it on my own.
Right.
But now I think most of the times it just does it in 1 to 2 messages. So it's gotten much better now. And also like for the research phase where, mm, let's say for example, we wanted to implement a feature flagging tool, right? So for our business, we kind of know what type of features do we expect from a feature flagging tool. Just mention those to deep research. So Cloud has deep research in preview, and
Mm.
OpenAI has it in like production. So both of these tools, either one of these, which one is available, I just type out these requirements and then send it, and you don't even have to do the googling work now. I think once you have a high level idea, then to go a bit deeper, maybe I would again start googling by myself. But I think a lot of the work that I didn't want to do has gone away, right? So it's more about you being creative, figuring out things, and the actual execution is something that doing quite well.
Yeah.
And the thing here is, so in Cursor, like when it generates large amounts of code, then you might miss something even when you review, which is why the developer environment thing is like super important. So you have to set up those processes, push it to dev, iterate fast there. You don't have to worry too much. But then you should have a solid testing mechanism. Especially your test cases should be like solid. And now AI helps with that. Test cases were very, very boring previously, right? So at least I don't know of a lot of people who write a lot of tests. So I think now you can generate a lot of these test cases, have the infra to actually run these on every deployment, make sure your coverage is high, and that's probably going to be one of the only things to review, you review. You review your tests, and then if everything runs fine, then I think mostly you're good to go. The dev and staging environments will help you sort out the other issues by having actual humans test what you're doing. So
Got
that way, I think the entire team can follow this workflow and contribute.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you kind of broke down, the process, and you brought up an interesting point where the work that you didn't like doing, now AI can do it for you, right?
Yeah.
And I literally just had a podcast interview, I think like yesterday, where I was talking with a guest about the bias of bringing AI to like an enterprise, and usually the people that have their pitchforks out and their hands up in the air saying, "Oh no, AI is going to replace my job." The talking point was like, "Well, the thing they're replacing is all the stuff you hate doing,
Yeah.
right?" So wouldn't that actually be a benefit if AI actually comes in? Because now you can actually work on things in your business that you actually enjoy doing, not all the monotonous, boring, type of work.
Yeah.
So it's great to see, not only in engineering, obviously, but we're seeing this across all different disciplines where the stuff that's any robot or software could automate that most humans hate doing.
Yeah.
Let's get AI
Absolutely.
to let's get AI to handle that. And, if there was like a happiness index metric of the entire world's population, somehow being able to track that, I
Hmm.
think with AI being introduced, that metric would probably go up,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, as you kind of think about how the AI landscape is, rapidly evolving, what trends are you most excited about in the field of AI, especially around kind of software development?
Okay. Um, so in software development, okay, I haven't given a lot of thought about this, but I think right now the way Cursor is going, I'm like super happy about it. Like I said, the number of times I have to like reiterate and get Cursor to do what I do. I mean, if that goes down to just one message, then first of all, I think that is going to be amazing. Second, I think it still lacks a lot of knowledge in certain tools that are probably less used. So a lot of times when I'm using a tool or an open source library that's not used a lot, it doesn't really do that good of a job. So then you'll have to go back and go to Google, look at the docs, and you know, back to a lot of the manual stuff. So I think I'm not sure, but if it could probably get better there, that would be super helpful. Because a lot of times we do end up using such things. Apart from that, I think on the infra side, like writing Terraform code, for example, um, there it, at least for me, it didn't do that much of a good job. Granted, I'm very new to Terraform as well. So that's actually something that has enabled me because I have not written a single line of Terraform code before. I basically know what the tool does and
Yeah.
what it's used for. And just using cursor on the side and just chatting with it, basically built a small repo of Terraform code. Probably, again, if that becomes more usable quicker, that's probably is what's going to help me the most in a development workflow. Yeah.
And you kind of mentioned, Codex as a tool, and, for our audience that's not familiar, OpenAI released something called Codex, which
Yeah.
is agentic AI that can run in parallel, so you can have multiple agents doing different tasks, especially around coding. You know, Mukunth, as you kind of think about agentic and how that is going to impact your workflow, obviously you're already kind of testing out Codex, but anything exciting there that you're kind of looking forward to?
Um, no, I think so. Codex is something that non-technical folks can use quite easily because it lives outside an IDE. You just go to your browser, and if you have all your repos connected, then anyone can just chat and add features. So, uh, for me as a developer, I think Cursor is more well suited because Cursor is also agentic. It's just that it lives in an IDE, right? So you can actually see what it is doing, and you have a bit more control over things. But I think what something like Codex enables us to do is it enables a lot of our non-tech folks, like PMs. I think doesn't apply in our company because most of our PMs are also technical folks, right? But even then, like you don't have to have an ID. You just go to Codex, and then a lot. So let's say we do an engineering product sync up, we can figure out in today's AI world what tasks should engineering actually own would probably be the more complex ones, and a lot of the simpler ones, like let's say UI UX changes or simple APIs that need to be developed, um, could actually be owned completely by the product team. Like you probably don't need engineering to do those, and you empower the product team to iterate on certain features end to end, right? So I think that's where a tool like Codex becomes super helpful. And with the dev setup, the different environment setup that we have, I mean, every a product person could basically develop a feature using Codex and actually have a URL where they could go and see uh, what they've developed and keep iterating on that. And for the final review, even there, an AI could do the final review like a more powerful LLM. And finally, a human from the engineering team could do it and like push it. So I'm more interested in how we can integrate Codex into our workflow such that non-tech guys can also start, contributing. So,
Got it, got it. And you kind of mentioned about, different roles kind of being redefined. Like, the PM now is like essentially transforming from a, PowerPoint, PRD monkey to like, hey, they can actually start, contributing to, the product
yeah.
development and experience. How do you think about kind of the future of software engineering teams, and how are you looking for maybe specific skill sets or types of system thinking from folks that you're sourcing, recruiting, hiring, and then retaining across the software engineering discipline?
Yeah. So I think as AI progresses, um, anything to do with just pure software engineering is probably going to be phased out slowly, right? Um, so the type of people that I would look for is someone who has um, a good set of product skills and a good set of technical skills. So someone who is good with UI, UX design, understanding the like what problem we're solving, like being empathetic with customers, and also someone who can build out something technically complex, right, in the right way for the stage of the business you're in. I mean, if you have all of this, then you're only involved in solutionizing, right? So you solutionize from a problem angle that the user or the customer is facing, and then so basically product work, and then you also know how to implement it because like you have that skill set. So you have a high level of how to get it implemented. You're able to break things down, and then you get an AI to just do it, right? So I think if you only have technical skills without any of the product or business skills, that's probably going to become redundant very fast.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've been coming across this. I don't know if it's a trend, but it's kind of a food for thought. Where when we're talking about UI, UX, traditionally with many products, um, the experience is kind of set in stone, right? The designer kind of pushes the design to product, puts out the requirements, engineering goes and builds it. And a lot of the apps, both on the web as well as mobile, is like it's always the same nav bars, same menu items, same buttons in the same place, right? But there is a recent kind of focus, and I haven't seen too many companies do this, about an AI native UI UX, right? So just to put a little bit more meat on the bones there, essentially your UI for whatever tool will actually automatically configure based on who you are, the context of your journey, what's relevant to you at that time. So essentially, the UI never stays the same. Everybody has their own, but AI would be intelligent enough to know this is what you need to be looking at right now. Everything else is noise. So we're going to declutter your experience. As you kind of think about that shift or that paradigm shift from an engineering perspective, is that possible? And if so, what do you think would be the approach to build something like that?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely possible. I mean, so every product has a certain set of tasks that you can achieve with it. Like with ours, let's say it's making voice bot calls, right? And given that, I think for our customers, they want to look at certain things. Those mostly don't change. I think like once we have enough customers, we'll know high level what does each customer want to like look at. And then it just goes down to personal preference, like what does one person want to look at versus the other. And I think how do we make all of this information discoverable to that specific user? So I think, yeah, this is definitely something that's possible with AI. And LLMs are like quite smart now. So I mean, it could probably just even learn from uh, what the user, like probably, let's say you just record a few sessions of what the user did on your tool, and then later it could probably just assume few things and show what it thinks the user wants to see, and it just iterates, refines on top of that. I think something like that can be built. I haven't given this a lot of thought, but is it possible technically in today's world? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a huge Hollywood movie buff, and you've probably seen the movie like Iron Man,
Yeah.
where Tony Stark is talking to Jarvis, and he's like
Yeah.
manipulating his screen with his hands and like going in and out and zooming in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it seems pretty sci-fi, but I think we're getting to the point where like the technology's there, right?
Yeah.
So whether I'm using my voice or using my fingers to manipulate the information and insights and actions that I wanna do, right? Pretty excited about that future. Hopefully, we're the first ones to build something like that to manage AI and to deploy for your business. And, I can see it where I just log in the day I'm talking to my AI. Hey, I want to know how XYZ customer is doing with our voice agents, and boom, 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 it just like comes up, right? Versus like I had to click through 20 screens to get to that information. So, um, and so how do you, as you think about kind of your experience building AI, what's maybe one common misconception that you see kind of in the market or even with the team, and then how do you address it?
Hmm. Okay. I think one misconception is that because we have AI, people expect things very, very fast, right? But that's probably not always true. So for a lot of types of tasks, it is fast, but there's still for a lot of tasks where you still have to do a lot of solutioning manually because AI still doesn't have a lot of context. It has like you have to give it that context, and sometimes you just can't give it certain context, right? That is something that's probably in your head. So just solutionizing something takes a lot of time. Once it's solutionized, and once you put out a plan, then then yeah, I mean, um, there's no reason for you to not deliver fast on it, right? So the moment it reaches the execution stage, like I think it's fine. People can have expectations for it to be done fast because it can now. But
Mm,
till you're solutioning something, it it's not as fast as people expect it, right?
mm, mm. So when you kind of think about as you mentioned, like speed and output, what kind of gains are you seeing in terms of, before LLMs and now with LLMs in engineering? If you were to quantify that number, what would that look like?
Yeah. I would say in terms of team size, it's probably like 5 times lesser now, right?
Mm,
So you had 5x the number of engineers before to achieve the same work now.
mm,
And I think that speaks for itself when it comes to speed and other things, right? Because you're able to ship things fast
mm.
and reliably. No, yeah, you just need a smaller team to do the same work.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of had a little um, thought about, traditional software development. You have, teacher size and story points, so you can track the velocity of your team and kind of see the productivity of engineering. I wonder if there's going to be a time where there's actually like an AI story point. And what I mean by that is like, because everybody has their own journey of adopting AI, right?
yeah,
Like, oh, I'm a beginner in cursor versus I'm more advanced. I know how to utilize the agentic stuff. I now utilize all the different features and functionality. I wonder what the step change in terms of productivity looks like from like beginner, you know, moderate or something, right? And then like advanced. Is it like a 2x, 5x, and then like, I don't know, 50x? And is there a metric that you could track to see like, oh, this person understands how to wield the tool at this level, and the output clearly shows that they're in that advanced tier, if you will. Any thoughts on that? Yeah.
yeah. I think even now AI helps you if you're already good at what you do, right?
Mm,
So if you're a beginner and you're starting out, then it can help you learn, but
mm,
it still won't help you deliver output like what a professional does, like someone with a lot of experience does, right? So I don't think it's there yet.
mm,
And that's probably why the step function change, like you're mentioning, from a beginner to, let's say, an expert is probably like 50x, 100x, because the expert knows exactly how to use it and
right.
um, they know what to do. So they very quickly solutionize and then they very quickly know what to ask the AI to develop, how to develop, and what the final output should look like. They're able to visualize all of this in their head and they're able to like convey it to like cursor or codex or whatever is the element that they're using, right? But a beginner wouldn't even know that. So for example, like if it's a full stack development task, there that is something that I would be able to work how an expert works. But when
Yeah.
it comes to something like mm, this infra Terraform stuff that I was talking to you about, right? So that's something that's a bit new.
Mm,
So if you were to compare me with someone who already knew Terraform, I mean,
right.
they would have production grade outputs by the time I learn all like how Terraform works,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's just that it's definitely helped me learn Terraform faster with actual examples of code, but I still have a long way to go in, becoming an expert there. So I
Yeah.
think,
So from what it sounds like, based on your experience, depending on the depth of the domain expertise of that individual, it's pretty much
yeah,
like an exponential growth, right? Because as you
yeah,
know, you're starting from zero, right? There's no like baseline, and then it kind of just like accelerates from there. So, yeah,
exactly.
I'm seeing this in the same vein. Outside of engineering, like everything else, from marketing to sales, folks that know how to do the job well, when they wield AI, it's like they're superhuman, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. And as you kind of look forward to how AI is going to impact engineering, what do you think are going to be some major trends or changes or shifts in paradigm in the next 3 to 5 years?
Hmm. Uh, I think like we discussed before, like the roles are probably going to get a bit merged. If
Mm,
you if you're only a PM, probably going to get outdated. If you're only an engineer, you're probably going to get outdated. So you
Mm,
probably need to do a bit of both
mm,
um, uh, for you to, like sustain. I think most of these engineering roles that are purely engineering are definitely going to go away.
mm.
So, uh, yeah, I think that's how I see the future.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like,
I totally agree with you that the merging of roles is definitely happening. I mean, they usually say the trifecta for tech is like you have your product person, you have your designer, and then you have your engineer.
yeah,
But really, it's kind of becoming like one role in a
yeah,
sense, right?
yeah,
Um, so it's both exciting, but also I'm sure pretty frightening for folks that maybe have been specialized in the same kind of role and
yeah,
having decided to adopt kind of new AI tooling. But I'm looking forward to that date because being a little bit of a ADHD type of person, I'm like, I know enough information about everything to be dangerous, but I'm not exactly an expert. But it's enough to say, hey, I can bring in AI to fill in the gaps, right? Because
yeah,
one of the things I heard, I think, from Mark Andreessen, from Andreessen Horowitz, he was saying that the new type of worker is going to be more broad in their
yeah,
knowledge and know enough about each topic
yeah,
of the world, if you will, and to know how to pattern match and fill in the gaps to bring it all together because AI can actually go into the depth of things, right? Because even with these reasoning models now, like it's like PhD level. So I don't know if I know a little bit about biology, but I don't really know it from an expert level. I can just say, hey, I know how biology can map to this other discipline, AI, go down the rabbit hole for me, right?
yeah,
So, um,
absolutely.
all right, awesome. Well, any other kind of closing remarks, thoughts that you think, might be important for our audience? And if our audience wants to connect with you, learn more, where can they find you?
Yeah. Um, I think I don't have much of closing remarks. I think we covered a lot here, but like Richard said, AI is not something to be like scared of, right? It's
Mm,
not going to take away your jobs. Probably it's just a chance for us to upskill into things that we thought we couldn't do because we already had a lot of work.
yeah.
And now you could probably spend that time. I know a lot of engineers who want to do product work. I know a lot of product guys who want to do engineering work. Like, now's
Mm,
the chance,
right.
to get into it. And yeah, I think that's the
Yeah,
way
that's
I'm
always been
at.
kind of a battle, right? Where engineers are like, oh, I'm just building things that the PM tells me to do.
Yeah,
But I actually have my own like ideas and thoughts, and then the PM's like, man, I can never get the thing I want delivered because
yeah,
it's not moving fast enough. So it's
exactly.
a merge where both sides are going to be happier.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely.
All right, awesome. Well, Mukunth, I really appreciate you being on the podcast. I'm sure the audience is going to, get a lot of insights on how AI is shaping engineering, and so appreciate you having you on. And thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Richard.
Awesome, thank you.